Hey, it's Terry with Something Spooky, and I'm going to be reading one of my stories. This is called The Tooth Fairy, and it is from my book, Stories of the End, which you can find on Amazon in paperback or digital. Edward had a hole in his tooth. It hurt when he ate, drilling through the meat of his face, singing chords of pain in his skull. He had tried to take care of his teeth, but failed. When he was little, his dad told him to brush regularly, but he never did it after every meal. He had worked done at the dentist since he could remember. The way his father spoke so reverently of mouth hygiene, he sensed a deep trauma there all along. When his own dental state deteriorated, it felt like a bit of destiny. Maybe he should have flossed more. He tried to brush in semicircles for 2 whole minutes as instructed, but he never flossed. He didn't like the way it felt, this junky stretch of wire sliding through saliva and raking against enamel. Maybe that would have saved all the pain. Food would get lodged in the cavernous hole, stick there and poke at his gums with little daggers for hours after eating. The feeling was infectious, invasive, with a hurtful rhythm that pulsed and subsided only to grow back. His drinking swelled, flooded his lungs. He poured straight liquor on his sore mouth. He should have gone to the dentist, but didn't. When he first heard the voices, he thought they were in his head. Then he thought they were in the walls. Finally, after weeks of sloshing cheap whiskey, vodka, gin, tequila, and rum in his mouth, he heard the voice in his tooth. It was tiny but able, confident though indecipherable. The whispers rose all day long, languishing in waves like the tide coming in. He heard them more and more until a hum of nonsense cast him deaf. Then he reached into his mouth one morning when the coffee was stale and a piece of bacon from his egg biscuit sliced off and cut into his wound, and gripped that corpse of a molar. It was loose and wiggled like ripe fruit for that famous fairy, the one with coins for body pieces. The tooth creaked and squirmed in the bloody pink tissue. He ripped it out, and gore flew through the air in fountains. It poured over the house, caking the walls and ceilings in fluids and human debris, enough for a congregation of people. The cacophony of innards flooded the room, washing up to the windows in an angry churn like the sea. Bones hit the wall and pierced through plaster. Edward's face split open and erupted in a collage of fungi. Vines shot from his teeth and weaved into the house, gripping framework and entangling with wiring, fusing to the pipes and structural shell of his home. Outside, the ground rot, holes opened in the soil, plunging forever deep in cavernous vacuums. Slick pink membranes formed like slopes in the land. Edward, no longer Edward, but an evolving mass of mushrooms and roots and flowers, churning vines and jagged branches, grew through the roof. The famous last words of the house as it groaned from the strain before exploding in a burst like vomit. His last thought, the tooth ripping from his jaw. It stinged and poisoned the environment, spreading through the surroundings like a fever. Everything withered and decayed to its touch, transformed and conformed to its nature. The entire surrounding area, a neighborhood bordered by trees, erupted into its tune. The reach grew to a nearby shopping center where the buildings crumbled and the earth swallowed parking lots. A mold crystallized on the mushrooms first, then tiptoed to the branches, traced the vines, strangled the flowers. It covered the earth, racing behind the consumption of forest things. No being existed in it anymore. It spread uninhibited across all the things. The world was remade in its image and then shrank and forgot. Hope you enjoyed. That was The Tooth Fairy from Stories of the End. You can find it on Amazon. Thanks.